they're rather difficult to
Yeah.
make sure that everyone has somebody. Oh wow! Oh
Yeah.
You talking about rugby, Trent?
I was.
Of course
First
he
game
is.
this last weekend.
Are you not a fan either?
It's growing on him.
It's interesting.
It's interesting to watch once. Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, it's hard to get enthusiastic about it though. It's interesting to watch. That's really cool.
Talk about that.
That's how I feel about pro basketball.
That's fair. I think we can all agree on that.
Pro basketball's just now starting to get interesting when they're 2 rounds into the playoffs.
Yeah.
Now they're finally starting to play like it matters.
You have to dribble. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now Luke's a hockey guy. I don't know if you knew that.
I think I did know that. You joined the playoffs?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That Boston-Philadelphia game was great the other night.
Yeah. A lot of good games this year.
I know that hockey's a game. Very in the know. Yeah, my research is, at first, I mean, as you know, I'm in the data analytics program, and a lot of the peers do more of the analytics.
I wouldn't miss this for the world.
There it is. I got to say.
How you doing, bud? Good. How are you?
Can't
Good to
press
see you.
one more.
You bet. Good to see you.
Like next to.
There'll be questions from the audience section. Too.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I've got a scroll.
Good. I expect no less.
And I hope everybody here is taking notes
Oh yeah.
on this guy right here.
Yeah. Look where it got Rick. He's known me for 20 years. Look
Yeah.
where he got it.
Sounds of our
25.
anticipation is killing.
It's okay.
I just want to get him out of here. I mean,
Yeah.
I just want to.
Whatever the motivation.
I'll take it.
Either
I'll
way.
take it. I'll take it. No, so data analytics, I've moved over to make the repertory grid work. I'm basically building my entire process out of the app now because I just think it's so fun. And so I'm moving more towards how do you successfully integrate a data analytics project into a initiative or an organization, as opposed to what models and methods and statistics you use, because that's done to death. But nobody, like we were talking about this before, nobody knows the right tool to use to actually make good decisions. They just say, throw big data in it and then we'll be awesome. And it's just, that's not how it works. So looking at how people successfully integrate decision-making processes into their organization. And then we bypass the problem with entrepreneurship was when do you know if it's successful or not, right? So this is more of a, did it integrate? It was successful. Did it not integrate? It was not successful.
Yeah. When I did, and I was very addressed in my research, but I was explicit to not put definitions around success and failure because it really is in the eye of the individual, right? I mean, a consultant's going to say it was successful even if the company failed. He could make an argument for it. And that's one of the keys, but that's part of the beauty of that process is I'm trying to elicit the viewpoint of that individual.
Yeah, and that's what I love about it.
Yeah, so, you don't have to compare it to any standard. There's no control variables. None of that applies. This is purely exploratory. So tell me what you think is important about this whole thing and why it is different.
Yeah.
What the consultants that I worked with, to a person, said, man, I've never looked at my clients this way. This is really interesting. So providing that comparative data like that is really...
Definitely. And I think that's what drew me to this approach because, again, it's just, you throw big data and it's a success. All of a sudden, if you collect lots of information, you're a big data company, right? And so it's taking back and saying, no, what were you trying to get out of this? And did you get that out of it in your decision-making processes and your descriptive analytics? So hopefully that's beneficial. So at least it allows me to look at it from the grid model as opposed to more
whether it's beneficial or not, again, this is
yeah, that's true. That's true. Maybe I'll do
Well,
a
it's
meta-analysis.
beneficial,
I'll do a meta-analysis and I'll ask the people that read my paper, is this beneficial to you? Why was it beneficial?
Why was it beneficial?
I'll be good for my ego. No, if nobody read my paper.
That's my story. I'm saying.
So there's an audience.
Small audience. This is like old hat sheet. Ran for.
Sure it is.
You're gonna be a global presenter here, so
I am.
this is just priming the pump. Anything particularly you want to ask questions about?
Now, what do you want to talk about?
Unicorns, both imaginative and company-wise. I would appreciate, to be honest, I think the good old Mark Flair of like not taking garbage is beautiful.
Not taking garbage.
You present your opinion, you present it, and like, well, and this is why this is right, and this is why these people are not very bright. I appreciate that.
So,
Yeah.
go around the room, let me tell everybody why they're wrong.
Yeah, preferably. Yeah. You can start with me. I'll just.
Well, that will take.
I don't have that time, Ken.
This guy.
I got things to do
It's
today,
not
brother.
audience participation time yet. Wait your
Sorry,
turn.
Sorry.
No, we'll start with the basic two questions, which is who are you, what do you do, and I guess those are three questions. Who are you, what do you do, and how'd you get there? And just walk us through your very exciting life, and then we just pull pieces out of that and talk about
We
it.
are ready.
We're ready.
Yeah.
Quotable material is better because then we
And-
can take it out. And stuff.
3,
I only present quotable material.
2. We'll pause. Yep.
Good afternoon. My name is Trent Grable. Here we are live at the C3 today. I'm here with Mark Hagar from the Fort Wayne area, from Rain, Indiana, and the whole variety of different things that you do. So we'll just go into our talking with Mark, and he can tell you all the things he does. Mark, what do you do?
My career, I always have to tell these stories in parts because there's parallel careers that went on. But for 20 years, I owned a company. It was a commercial printing and direct mail marketing company located here in Fort Wayne, and bought that company in 1997. It was an existing firm, and we grew that company primarily through the addition of direct mail marketing and focusing on that portion of our business. But we also adopted a growth through acquisition strategy. In the 20 years I owned that company, we purchased 13 other companies in this kind of same vertical space and integrated them into that business. Grew the business nicely in an industry that was shrinking at a rapid rate because of the influx of technology on every front, really. Direct mail marketing went to online.
Yeah.
Emailing. We saw technology being more affordable to a lot of our clients, things that they used to have to come to us to produce. They were able to produce in-house if they had a volume high enough. We saw online competitors come into the realm. So I sold that company in early 2017. So that's one of my stories. My parallel career is I'm a certified turnaround professional. I work with financially distressed businesses, small businesses, primarily in Northeast Indiana. If it's a print-related company, I tend to, the geography tends to broaden out a little bit, as I'm pretty well known in that industry. And we work with the owners of those businesses to get them out of financial distress and back on the road to profitability. Sometimes we work with them to just liquidate that company or sell it to a vertical integrator. But either way, we're there to protect the stakeholder, the shareholder value moving forward. And along the line, I've acquired a handful of those companies myself, probably 5 or 6 of them over the years. And so that's another part of my career. Since selling my company in 2017, I started doing some investment in technology startup companies. I travel around the country and listen to pitches from tech startup guys in a variety of settings, and we've made some investments across the board on those.
Average scale, good or bad pitches?
Oh, terrible.
Okay.
I continue to tell people every city I go to that there's no excuse for bad pitches anymore. There's plenty of examples online. You can learn how to do that. There's an incubator or an accelerator or co-working space in every county in the United States, it seems now. And with all those resources available, there's absolutely no excuse for a terrible pitch. And yet, I
They keep
do them
coming.
over
They keep
and
going.
over again. Yes.
Do you ever record your own and like replay them for?
No,
Okay.
I'm kind of big on confidentiality on it.
No.
Most of the things that I do because of the
Okay.
nature of my work, so I don't
That's
record
fair.
much.
Details, right?
Yes.
Details. All right. So how did you get there? How did you decide, in all your different paths, that you were gonna maybe not even decide, but how did you take an opportunity or choose to do that, or how did those paths come to be?
Mostly it had to do with when I found things that I thought were interesting and I wanted to pursue them. I never really had this, this singular focus that I knew there was one thing I wanted to do. So the result was I'll just try everything. And when it comes up, as long as you can scale it appropriately, and that is that it doesn't take over your life, you can do a lot of things. And as things presented themselves, I just took the opportunity. I got into consulting almost by accident. Somebody asked me for some help on one project 17 years ago. It was a manufacturing company up in Auburn. I went in and helped them, and through the process of that, I got to know their attorneys and their accountant. And 3 months after I finished that job, I got a call from one of the attorneys, and he said, "You help this guy? I've got another client who might need some help. Would you be willing to do that?" And ever since then, I've always had projects to work on. I've never done the first minute of outbound marketing in that arena, but there's always a company in distress somewhere.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, always.
And I get a great deal of pleasure out of helping those people. It's very fulfilling to help protect the interest of a small business owner whose family depends on that, employees who have worked there for years and don't want to lose their jobs, and the families that they support as well by extension. So, it's very fulfilling to go in and work with those companies.
So you talked about finding opportunities that are scalable. How do you decide if an opportunity is scalable or not?
Well, I don't always.
Okay.
And I guess I say that because I don't disqualify a project just because it's not scalable.
Okay, that's
what
fair.
I look for is the potential for profitability. Scale is a question of geography many times, and so you just have to ask, can it play in other areas? And really, it's not about can it scale. It's a question of what's the pathway towards that scale, and if I can identify a pathway towards scale, then I'm interested. If I can't identify that pathway, then I have to accept the company more or less as it sits, and decide if there's a pathway to profitability where it sits.
So you were talking about how you have not marketed at all for one of your paths. How did you decide to take that opportunity and build on it, as opposed to viewing that as an opportunity that wasn't worth your time?
Well, again, it's incredibly interesting to me, and it continues to get more interesting as I go down the path, because what we see are the same types of mistakes made over and over again, and so I've become very efficient at it, for one thing. But I'm always a little shocked. Small businesses get into trouble because they don't have the resources of larger organizations. They don't have the financial resources, but they also don't have the management skill and the management resources available to them. But they often have access to outside resources, advisory boards, again, attorneys, accountants, and things like that. And you just start to question why they get into these situations when they have this feedback that they could be getting. And there was a point, and I don't know when, but there's a point where it's become a bit of an obsession with me trying to understand the mindset of these individuals and why they function the way they do.
And you are actually undertaking research right now.
I am. I'm a doctoral student at Cranfield University in Bedford, England. Last year I spent 11 weeks in the UK. And my research is tied exactly towards that phenomenon. So why do people access information that helps them get out of financial distress, and yet they don't actually do anything with it, and they fail to get out of financial distress? And oftentimes their companies fail as a result. And it's fascinating. The research has been a lot of fun, and it continues to be fascinating to me.
So, opinion of the UK?
I love the UK. It's beautiful. Incredibly nice people.
How's the weather?
the weather has been really nice this last couple of weeks.
Warmer than here in the Midwest,
Yes,
depressingly so.
it's-
So you also, in addition to the 3 tracks you just talked about, do various other activities, including TEDx that you just ran.
We ran TEDx Fort Wayne.
Yes.
It was
Talk us through that.
It was a really nice distraction from all the things that happen more routinely for me. We put together a great team, and it executed. It was really well received. We were thrilled. We had 11 local speakers. We had 4 previous TED Talks that were shown, that were recorded. We had a great turnout. We sold out all of our tickets. We had a beautiful venue, great partners, and it was a really exciting day and a lot of fun. We had an Indiana Tech student as a presenter. He did a wonderful job for us.
Good. Pete, looking at you. So outside of horrible pitches, which we just know are painful to sit through, what is the reoccurring, if any, reoccurring theme you see in these young entrepreneurs that you would just like to just snuff out right now? What is the one thing or couple things? You're saying,
there's so many.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
they accumulate to come out to a bad pitch.
Yeah,
This is how you get to a bad pitch. It's not a good pitch with a mistake.
Yeah,
It's
that's
a
fair.
bad pitch. Market awareness is, in my mind, one of the most important things, and this is something that I've decided is important in turnarounds as well. And this notion of market awareness, and part of it goes right back to what you talked about being scalable. When somebody tells me they're going to sell on the internet, say, okay, that's what is the tip of the spear into the marketplace? How do you get there? Tell me about your competition and tell me why people will buy from you instead of them. And the typical answer is because we're better, which is really not an answer at all, right? I don't invest in the best company, I invest in the best selling company. And I think those are a couple of the areas that you just continue to see people. They like to talk about that. They like to talk in huge numbers. It's a $2 trillion market, so if I can only get 1% of it, and whenever anybody says that, they basically are excluded from the conversation from that point on. Because what they've done is taken their $2 trillion market and made it 1% of that, because that's their new goal, so really their market is less than that. And even then, they can't begin to talk about how they're going to begin to capture any of the market. And so this notion of, it'll be easy to get 1% of a market. Well, no, it's not. It's no easier to get 1% than it is to get 10% or anything else. You still have to know how you're going to get there. I think so. Those are a couple of the problems. Unrealistic valuations are a huge problem with startup companies and entrepreneurs in general, because someday it will become it's going to be a $1 billion business someday. But today we're going to value it on the $50,000 in sales you've made. So let's talk about that. So I think those are some of the common problems that we tend to see. I remember where we were, but recently sitting in a conference room, and after listening to a full day of pitches, between the startup people coming in during office hours, I looked at the other guy and I just said, I wish someone would come in and pitch a barbershop. And somebody would come in and tell me, I want to open a barbershop in my local community. I need $150,000, and it's like, I love that guy.
You won't need another Uber for something.
Yes,
right?
the Uber of something, the Airbnb of something, the Match.com of whatnot. You
just love those. I know you love analogies. So
I love analogies. Well, there's some interesting research out there that says that experts recognize the differences and amateurs recognize the similarities. And so when somebody comes in and says that their company is the Uber of something, I think most of the people at the table are quick to say it's not at all like Uber because of this. But I think there's also a handful of people that say, oh, that makes perfect sense. I always worry about those people.
You ever sit around with those people?
Sometimes I like to tell them they're wrong.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They take that well?
Yes.
Sure. Okay, good. So on the other side of that, what are some key variables of a really solid pitch that you really latch onto?
Well, we always look for traction, right? I mean, somebody who can show that they have begun sales, that there's an upward trend to their sales, that's impressive. When they can talk to us about who their partners are. And again, I'm always taken by somebody that does a really good job explaining their market, especially their competition. Right? We always ask for that perfect profile, the one customer.
Yeah.
Tell me who that perfect customer is, and then let's talk about how many of those customers are. Because market size isn't. Everybody likes to talk about it in dollars, but the reality is it's in customers, and that's what we're interested in. So talk to me about that ideal customer, and then how many other customers are like that in the world, in the country, wherever the geography you intend to service, and how do we get to those individuals? And that's the conversation I want to be having, not these kind of ambiguous big numbers as though that's going to impress anybody. It's just, I'm much more interested in the last 10 customers you had, or the how do you get from one customer, we say the first time you sell something to someone you don't know, then you have a business. So you've got one customer, right? So how do you get to 10? How do you get to 100? How do you get to 1,000? And that's a conversation based in logic that I want to have, instead of let's start at $1 trillion and work our way backwards.
I mean, $1 trillion is appealing, obviously, but not very practical, right?
Not very practical.
So what, when you're looking at the people that can go from 0 to 1 and then 1 to 10, how often are they, or how do they look back on those successes and say, how do we build on that? What is the reverse engineering process that seems to work well, at least for you?
Well, we're going to ask them what they learned in this. It's not unusual for startup companies to have to pivot a little bit here and there, and that's what we want to hear about, though. We want to hear about when they got to their 10th customer, they realized that there's something about their customer profile that's different than they thought, or when they got to their 100th customer that we realized there's a better way to market to them, or that the price wasn't exactly right, or that. But I want to hear that they've learned along the way, because every one of those marks that we think are important should be some learning going on there as well.
So if I came to you and I said, hey, we have 10 customers and we haven't changed anything, now we're going to shoot for 100.
Well, not if you can say it worked exactly like we thought it would.
Okay.
And that's fair.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes it does. So because we knew our customer, we knew how to do this, we knew how to price it, we knew our advantages over our competition. We got 10 customers last week. We expect to get 100 next month.
How frequently does that happen?
Not very.
Okay.
Not very.
Can you give me a number?
Let's see. I looked at, in 2017, I looked at about 200 pitches. We made investments in 2.
Okay. So, on the board.
Solid 1%.
On the board. So your market share is about 1%. I'm just kidding.
Exactly right.
I'm kidding. So, if I was you started your business when you were about...
I was 30.
30. So for our students that are starting businesses probably as a side hustle as they're going through college, what suggestions do you have for them that would be different than someone that is maybe 30, or I just read a report from MIT that says the average entrepreneur's age is like 42 or 45. So what advice would you give to those different age demographics?
Well, I think when you're younger, when you're college, I would encourage people to be a little more patient. Again, some of these really bad pitches that we listen to, it's based on the fact that they haven't experienced anything yet. And I have no issue with young people, but understand that you've experienced nothing to this point. And so go out and it's just the reality. So go out and experience some things. I would tell you to learn the selling process. Get out and get the side hustle going. Get from that one customer to that $1,000 in sales a month, and you learn a lot in those processes. I think that's a good place to start. I think with the younger people who bring us pitches, part of the conversation, we often ask if people have had a successful startup and they've done an exit, things like that. But when you have somebody who's very young, we just ask them, what else have you done? I mean, where else have you worked? Have you ever started a side hustle? Because there's lessons there. And that's what I would tell people. And I would tell people to, lean more towards that pursuit of, if you have an entrepreneurial ambition, lean more towards that pursuit when you can, which is to say before you have a family or other obligations, you buy a house or car, because that's your opportunity to have a little bit of flexibility, and you can have use some time up there, and if you happen to have a failure along the way, it's not going to be destructive necessarily. So
how do you either recover from failures, because they're going to happen, right, or select failures that aren't as consequential?
Yeah, I think being a little bit risk adverse is a big part of that, because the consequence side of that is so enormous. You need to know what you have at risk, and if the answer is everything, then you need to decide that it's worth everything. I think when we bought our company, I've never been in a position in my life where I felt like I had everything at risk. The closest I probably ever was when I bought my company, because we had a lot of security there and things that we had to take care of. But yeah, understanding your risk. I mean, we always ask what's the worst that can happen, because sometimes it can. Yeah. And if that answer is, especially going back to your question about younger people and doing, if the worst that can happen to you is you have to go get a job, that really isn't that big of a deal. Yeah. Right? The consequences begin to raise when the worst that can happen is you might lose your house, right? And then we know there's all sorts of psychological and emotional costs to that. We see increased incidences of drug abuse and other substance abuse and domestic abuse and divorce and all those things that come along with that. But if the biggest risk you ever have to take is you might have to go work for someone else, that's a risk worth taking. Take that every time. Yeah.
So you, through all your acquisitions of your company, you probably had to deal with people. Yeah. Yes. At least a little bit. Yes. What are some of the key things that you look for when you're hiring, both at an entry level and at a more of an executive decision-making level?
Base it on attitude, right? We always talk about attitude, but communication skills are really important to me. Just the idea, number one, that somebody isn't afraid to talk to me, which happens when you hire, especially at startup initial positions. But yeah, that willingness to communicate is vital. The ability to communicate is really nice.
That's bonus,
right? That's bonus. But it starts with a willingness, and so that's important to me. Getting people focused so that some of this is my responsibility, right? As a leader, so you look at this and say, I want people in my organization who are focused on our goals and ambitions of the company. Yeah. But orienting them towards that is my job. Yeah. But I think so. If I communicate that well, and everybody is aware of what we're trying to accomplish, then we'll be okay there.
Good. So that's pretty much the same for both entry level and.
It really is. Yeah, it really is. I mean, I think your expectations of executives are a little different in that I shouldn't have to reorient them to the vision of the company every day or every quicker so often. Adapt, and they should be quicker to adapt. They should be a little more focused on it. You would expect, but still, you spend some time on that.
How long do you usually wait before you realize that you made a bad hiring decision?
I've been really lucky. Sorry. No, I've been really lucky. I think that, again, creating those expectations before you hire somebody of what the job is going to be helps along the way. I'm just trying to think of specific examples of when we've made bad hires, but certainly we've made a few mistakes, and it's a question usually of it being a bad fit. Yeah. Right? I mean, I don't think I've ever hired anybody who was just an awful person or anything that I can recall. But sometimes the fit isn't there. We try to support those people, right? So we go back into it and talk to them about it. We try to relocate them within the business if we can, but that doesn't always happen either. But it's a pretty long window for us to decide we made a bad hire and actually, get somebody to move along, make them available to the industry, as we say.
That's nice. Yeah, that's nice way to say.
I would say our most recent was probably 8 months or so.
Okay, so
which I think we give a person every opportunity to be successful, and make sure that we're doing what we need to support that success.
Yeah. So if I wanted to either start a company, or consult, or bring TEDx, or go for my DBA, what are the suggestions that you have for people who just need to get stuff done, like going from idea to actually producing a result?
I don't believe in multitasking. As much as my life is a giant multitask, I believe in compartmentalization and focus on what you're working on right now. And don't be distracted by working on an acquisition. Don't be distracted by the research paper that you know is also due, or whatever. You have to. The things that I do, in my view, deserve my full attention, and so I'm really good at compartmentalizing and just focusing on this right now, and I minimize other distractions. I don't answer the phone, and I don't worry about emails and those kind of things. But whatever I'm working on deserves my full attention, and that's the way I try to do it.
And that worked out pretty well for you.
You know, the jury's still out.
That's fair.
You know,
That's
I tell everybody all the time, you know, my kids will assess the success of my career. As long as I keep, Orson Welles once said, you know, whether the story has a happy ending or not depends on when you stop telling it.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
So, as of right now, it seems to be working out okay, but
Good.
we'll see.
Good. Write your autobiography now.
Yeah,
And you can,
right.
you can call it good. All right, well, we have a little game that we like to play with people, which is our rapid fire questions.
Oh gosh.
Which I know you're gonna love this. Yeah. This is gonna be so good. All right, so rapid fire questions. I'll give you a little bit of time.
Okay.
Anthony, if you're watching, way too much time. That's all right. We still love you. Quick questions, quick answers. Describe yourself in 3 words.
Boring.
You're really selling this.
Ambitious, I guess, fits. I don't know.
Okay, that's 2.
That's 2. Oh, jeez.
Undecisive. Right?
Undecisive.
Okay,
Apparently. Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah,
I'll take it. Yeah.
If you were an evil tyrant, what country would you want to rule?
What makes you think I'm not?
or what country are you currently ruling as an evil tyrant?
I think somewhere, maybe like Aruba or someplace nice, warm and
Smaller than landmass.
smaller.
too.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
the-
want the headaches of a lot
yeah,
of land.
that makes sense. Good
There's
choice.
a lot of caretaking there, cutting the
Yeah.
grass and all.
How do you like your steak?
Medium rare.
What's your favorite fruit?
Bananas.
That's Barbara's favorite. What is success?
We just had this conversation about not defining success.
But this is for you. This
I
is for
think
you.
I think success is you know, living the lifestyle you want to be living, living the life you want to be living, which is one of the reasons I do so many things that I do. Right? I think that I've been successful because I've been able to do the things that I want to do, and that extends to, you know, my family and the lifestyle we've lived and the way I've raised my children and all the things that I don't live my life with a lot of regret.
Good. That was a really good answer. It was a little long.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. Oh, that's okay.
I was trying to make up for not
Yeah, that's okay.
myself. For,
What was the last movie you saw?
I'm sure it was on an airplane. Shoot. The thing about the World War II and the
Oh, Dunkirk.
Dunkirk, yes, that was the last one.
Was it good? Did you like it?
You know what? It's made for a large screen, and I watched it on the back of an airplane seat.
So,
So
it's not the same effect.
It's not the same effect.
That's unfortunate. Favorite dog breed?
A Lhasa Apso poodle mix, because that's what I have.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So, bias. A little bit bias.
A little biased. Yeah.
What was the lowest grade you ever given? And what class was it in?
Oh my gosh. I think when I was I think I failed algebra when I was a sophomore. I was a horrible high school student.
So there's hope for
There is hope for anyone. Yes.
What was the name of your yacht?
Opportunity.
Oh, good. Favorite Disney character?
I don't watch Disney movies anymore. My kids are so old. Mickey Mouse or that. Is that too obvious? Is that way too easy?
We'll take it.
Okay.
We'll roll with it.
All right.
It's classic. What is something you're really bad at?
Well, we already talked about high school.
Yeah, okay, so high school. High school in general.
Golf.
Golf. That's fair. It needs to be good at golf.
I'm horrible at golf, except the one time I was perfect. I do have a hole-in-one to my credit.
Oh, okay. And then once again, you stopped.
I stopped shortly after that.
Okay, good. What is your favorite analogy?
Oh gosh.
Mark just loves analogies, in case you didn't catch it.
I don't have a favorite because I hate most of them. I'm gonna pass. Actually,
Okay.
pass.
What was one thing you've always wanted to do?
thing I've always wanted
That you haven't done,
do
because
that I
obviously
haven't
you
done.
do a lot of things that you like.
The answer to that, yeah, sorry.
Just you live a very fulfilled life.
The things that I truly want to do in this life, I tend to get done, one way or another,
Mm.
so that's,
I think that's going to be a quote for this series.
okay. Fair enough.
Cool. Well, thanks very much, Mark, for coming
Thank
and
you,
talking
thanks for
with
having
us.
me, thanks everybody for showing up.
And Mike Kelly, if you're watching, we just want to let you know there's a
Smoked
better
you.
turnout than your talk.
Smoked you.
Still love you though. All right, have a good day. Mark,
That was
thanks
all.
very much.
Thanks, man.
Hopefully it wasn't too
It was-
painful.
I was not at all prepared.
That's
Clearly.
kind of the goal.
I'm usually
Yeah,
a
that's
little
kinda
sharper
the goal.
than that. But-
All right. Well, Mark's going to stay here a couple minutes. 'Cause I just volunteered him. If anybody else has questions